Hey guys, Scott here. I just wanted to go over something that I realized about the patch yesterday that they just didn't even mention. In fact, I scanned the patch notes for quite a bit and I didn't see any mention of this whatsoever. And in fact, it took just seeing a random post on the forums to realize that one of the greatest changes in the game's history has actually happened and they didn't even really talk about it. I think apparently they mentioned it for like half a second on the live stream. I might have been like responding to someone in chat or something and it didn't even register. But this is a massive deal. They removed variants of maps. For those who don't know what that means, there are several maps that have different versions of them. I'm not talking about like kind of randomized layouts and things like that. That's sort of always how maps are generated. Variants have specifically generated main structures and stuff like that in different places. So for example, on, like Sanctum of Wrath, there's like an entirely new corner section where Shack is. That's not a random generation thing. That's a new specific chunk of the map. But most notably, and the greatest part about this, is there were 5 Badham Preschools, and this is something people are celebrating immensely because Badham Preschool is the worst realm for killer, and it has been since Freddy came out 76 years ago or wherever that was now. So it has been absolutely the worst. Everyone talks about Area Crows or Garden of Joy or whatever they want. No, it's pretty much always been Badham Preschool. I have been saying this for the entirety of Badham Preschool's lifespan. It is the worst map in the entire game for killer, or I guess the worst realm. And the thing is, there were differing levels of Badham Preschool. There was Badham Preschool 1 is the original one. And that one is unpleasant because it's still got the main with 2 god palettes, and it's got the basement building with a god palette, and then it's got the upstairs 2-floor area with a god palette, and then everything in between. It's bad, but it's not super terribly unplayable. However, there are a couple of variants of Badham Preschool that are just hilariously, disgustingly broken. Badham Preschool 2 was the worst map in the entire game. Worst realm and worst map. It's that map where you could have 5 loops spawn outside of Shack. So you could have a good survivor that could chain together Shack and an outside loop like 5 times. It's fucking impossible to down someone there. And then when that was all gone, they could just go to either main building that was accessible from anywhere. So it was awful, and it seems like it's just gone now. I feel like this should be like the main patch note for the entire DLC. Tokyo Ghoul doesn't matter. Like, all the Badham Preschools being gone is a bigger story than the Ghoul itself. So that is an absolutely massive change, and I don't understand why they didn't put that in their actual patch notes, considering just how big of a deal that actually is. Now, I will say it is sort of a weird decision, and this is also kind of a thing I wanted to bring up there. They have been making map variants kind of recently too, and the thing is, not all of them are bad. Actually, some of them are pretty decent. Some of the Macmillan ones are actually totally fine. I have no issue with them at all. So yeah, there were a lot of map variants in the game that were like unplayably bad, but there were also a couple of good ones too. And it's almost kind of a shame to see them take the work that they've done and just say, whatever. Instead of removing the bad ones, they just say remove all of them. So that's usually the opposite of how behavior works. Usually they'll have something like a bad decision being made. The community goes, hey, bad decision behavior. And they just go, we're just going to keep it anyway. They tend to double down on things like that. But it does seem like overall map variants didn't really add anything to the game. And in fact, in most cases, it removed something from the game. So to see them do work on something and then just say, you know what? People don't like this. Let's remove it. Do breakable walls next. That's great. I think that's a really good idea from behavior, to just realize that not everything that they make is great, and sometimes they have to go back on the decisions that they made. So it's like actually an overall good sign, even if it means that some of the good variants are being removed. Overall, the fact that I don't have to see Badham Preschool 2 anymore as killer is a very, very nice thing. So yeah, that's the main thing I wanted to talk about here. Other than that, there's not too much to discuss for the patch so far. I already see the hate for the Ghoul brewing. This is the video I made like 2 weeks ago. This is the thing I was worried about. He might be seen as too oppressive, and so the killer I find the most fun is becoming very quickly disliked by a lot of people, and they didn't really address any of the issues that I had with him there, namely the hitbox on the grab being way too generous, the range on that being way too long. It gives people a lot of a sense of helplessness, and we'll leave that for a different video. I want to give people a few more days going only against the Ghoul before they, really start fully hitting him. But anyway, I just wanted to go over the map variance thing because it's amazing. Hallelujah. And anyway, I'm going back to playing the Ghoul. Bye-bye.